I feel like whenever I start thinking about all of the blessings that the Lord has given me through my father, the list just goes on and on. And he's not a perfect man. He has issues just like all of us do. He and I are actually a lot alike. So we can be quick with our words at times. We can say things that we regret saying later on and have to make apologies for that. We're a lot alike in those ways. I just see my dad as a man who truly does love the Lord, and I'm just so thankful for that.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Tuesday, May 10th. It's a busy day. We have a lot to uncover because Pandora's box has opened. Everything that we've ever really wanted to know about Josh Duggar, his sisters, the Duggars, everything that went down back in 2015, and all the sort of things that led up to the dismissal of their lawsuit has been unsealed, and a lot of the secrets are starting to come out. I have gone through a lot of the information, and it's going to be a ton to dissect. I could do probably 37 different videos on all the different information I'm uncovering because the Duggars are really, really good about only showing us a certain picture of who they are online, and that's fair. I mean, everyone does that. But you rarely get the inside of what's actually happened. And when public records are filed and you finally get access to them, you can see a whole different side of people, and you can actually get those holes filled in that you've been wondering about or maybe even speculating about for years. And I think for the first time now, we're going to see some of those open up. One thing I've noticed as I've been reading all of this is that the Duggars, in my opinion, have trouble with the truth. And it's pretty evident that it's not just Jim Bob. It extends throughout even the girls. And I think if you're raised by someone like Jim Bob, it might be really difficult to tell the truth because you've been told how to lie or taught how to lie and not trust authority, or just being like slightly deceptive. Now, I think some of the girls are actually doing a good job of taking care of themselves and trying to distance themselves from the world in which they grew up. And I think others of them are not and are still very enmeshed in what's happening with the family. And one of those people that I think is heavily enmeshed to this day is Jessa. So this is going to be a video that I think is going to maybe surprise some of you and maybe not. But it comes down to Jim Bob Duggar avoiding service for a deposition and Jessa helping him.
These are things that my father would do without recognition, without looking for the praise of men, just always looking for ways to be a blessing to other people. And he really did live by the mindset that if your financial state were to increase, it wasn't to increase your standard of living, but your standard of giving.
So, yeah, and it happened in the fall of 2021. So it's not anything this is pretty relevant. This is nothing, I would say, old tea. So when they were still going through the lawsuit process, there was a process where they were trying to exclude information. So they were filing their motions in limine, and the girls filed theirs, and then the defendants filed theirs. And during one of that steps, they requested that Jim Bob Duggar's testimony be excluded from the trial. And they claimed that Jim Bob Duggar's testimony should be excluded because he was actually dodging service. And they went as far to say that the Duggars' property is so highly secured that they had drones that they were flying out from the house to anyone that went to the gate, that the process server was unable to make contact with them despite over 15 hours of surveillance, and that after being unable to actually serve Jim Bob, they abruptly left town and went on a trip. And that coincides with when the Duggars left town to go on that cross country. We're going to go to Wyoming, and we're going to go look at Mount Rushmore. Remember that weird trip they took in September? Yeah, it happened during this time. So they wanted to prohibit the testimony of Jim Bob. And listen, the trial never went to trial, so we never even had to get to this part. But this is what they said. Based on the plaintiff's pretrial disclosures, defendants expect that Jim Bob Duggar will be called as a plaintiff by the plaintiffs to testify. Jim Bob should not be permitted because he has intentionally dodged and avoided service, hiding behind locked gates and fleeing the state to avoid service through his counsel. Oh my gosh. This sounds like a spy movie. So he would not have to produce documents or answer quote questions under oath in a deposition during an expedited discovery period prior to trial. Despite multiple attempts over several months to serve Jim Bob Duggar with a subpoena, and for his deposition, they have been unable to obtain service of Mr. Duggar. In addition to those attempts by a civil process server to obtain service, the counsel for the defendants contacted counsel for Mr. Duggar in good faith to secure his attendance at a deposition, as well as obtain documentation responsive to the subpoena. Mr. Duggar had, not unlike other witnesses involved in the control of the plaintiff's lives and affairs, have acted in bad faith to gain an unfair advantage. Defendants would be significantly prejudiced at trial because they have not had the opportunity to conduct an investigation of any testimony that he may present at trial because Mr. Duggar has evaded service. So this is what these are the dates that they gave in this motion. So they say that on August 24th of 2021, a process server attempts service of subpoena to Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar at their residence. And after several attempts over several hours to reach them through the call box at their gate by waving and honking her car horn, during which the process server observed several people moving in and out of the home and in the yard, the process server observed a family member approach on a side road to the home and was able to make contact with her, but Jim Bob would not emerge, and the process server left her card and a message regarding the subpoena. And that's Jessa. We'll get there in a second. They said that on September 2nd, Mr. Ballinger, who is Jim Bob's attorney, indicated via email that he would reach out to Jim Bob and Michelle and discuss acceptance of the subpoena and on behalf of the defendants. And then on September 7th, but received no response after that. They said on September 17th, the server attempted service at a business owned by the Duggars, which was Champion Motor Cars, as well as the Duggars' home. And the process server made contact with members of the Duggar family and the business, but was unable to make contact with anyone at the residence due to the locked gate. The process server attempted to make contact with anyone at the residence by using the call box at the gate entrance, but was only met by a drone flown over from the Duggars' residence. A drone. They flew a drone over. That's so creepy. And the process server attempted to communicate that she is attempting to serve the hovering drone, but no one responded. Someone was controlling that drone, and they refused to respond to her. Then they said on the 18th, they monitored the business Champion Motor Cars to make contact with them. On the 19th, they go to the residence for several hours and attempt to make contact. On the 20th, they go to the residence at 2 different times, and they're met only with the drone again. So then on the 20th, they inform the Duggars' attorney via email that they would be seeking assistance from the court due to Mr. Duggar evading service on the same day, and Mr. Ballinger indicated the Duggars were on a month-long family trip out west and would be returning mid-October. Then they said that they indicated that it was not an issue. The Duggars were out of town, as the depositions could be set up via Zoom, and provided available dates to Mr. Ballinger. And then Mr. Ballinger informed them, and then he told them that he wasn't their actual attorney. So they spent 15 hours surveilling all of that, and she never made contact with him. It says the process server even made several attempts of speaking to a daughter of Jim Bob, speaking into the call box at the gate of the home, and speaking to the hovering drones that were sent from the resident, but received no response. So the affidavit that was filed by Dana, who was the process server, is pretty telling. Okay, so Dana Martin, who is the person that was trying to process her, filed an affidavit with them at this time, and this is what she said. I'm over the age of 18, blah, blah, blah. She says, on August 24th, I was provided a subpoena for Jim Bob and Michelle to produce documents. On August 24th, I attempted to serve the Duggars at their residence at approximately 5 p.m. The gate was closed and no one would answer my call or the call box or respond to my horn honking, although I saw people going inside and outside of the residence. I returned to the address at 7 p.m. after surveillance for a while, and one of the daughters, Jessa, came in through the side road to the house. The front gate opened, and I proceeded to the house. I made contact with daughter Jessa, and I asked her if her parents were home, and I could hear lots of voices inside. Jessa returned and asked me to leave. I stated my business, and she asked if I could leave my card and she would give it to her parents. This is a woman that was part of this lawsuit, by the way. So pursuant to that, they did one for a deposition on September 17th, and she completed the following tasks set forth. So between September 17th, she was there surveilling between 4:30 and 7:30 p.m. at Champion Motor Cars. And then they arrived at the Duggar compound. She says, upon arrival at the Duggar compound, I was able to see members of the Duggar family, but I was unable to make contact with anyone at the residence due to the locked gate. A drone from inside the residence flew over my location and outside of the residence. On September 18th, between hours of 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., I conducted surveillance at the Champion Motor Cars in an attempt to make contact with Jim Bob or Michelle. On September 19th, between the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., I conducted surveillance at the Duggars compound and Cross Church in Springdale to attempt to make contact with Jim Bob and Michelle. On September 21st through 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 11:20 to 1:20, I conducted surveillance at the Duggar compound. Once again, a drone flew over towards me while I was waiting outside at the compound. After a total of 15 hours of surveillance, I never was able to see Jim Bob Duggar or Michelle Duggar or to have any members of the family assist me in serving the subpoena. The Duggars' property is highly surveilled with cameras, drones, and gates. It is my knowledge that they have 3 entrances to the residence. I made several attempts to speaking at the call box at the residence with no response. There was at least 15 cars at the residence at all times. I made various attempts to speak to the drone that flew out to my location from the residence. Each time I made contact with a family member or spoke through the call box or to the drone, I identified myself and made myself known for the purpose of the subpoena and and then
I'm
they
really not for
provided
sure.
emails,
Must be an agenda.
I'm not sure if there was a bribe or if there was some kind of personal agenda or
It
something.
definitely wasn't to be caring about the victims.
Duggar
Have you had any
take
prior
this
dealings with
random
her?
trip that a lot of us were like, this is so weird.
you know,
Why
I
are they
think
traveling out in the middle
Josh
of
had-
September? Well, now we know why.
had-
They were being surveilled because
talked to her
they
one day
wanted
at a meeting,
documents for
and
the civil
he
trial
said
that
hi
Jim
to
Bob
her and stuck
apparently
out his
didn't want
hand,
to
and
give
she
them.
turned and wouldn't talk to
And
him.
they
She's
wanted
getting
Jim
ready to
Bob to sit for a
retire.
deposition, and apparently
And,
Jim Bob didn't want to sit for a deposition.
You know, just even
and so
a few weeks ago, she said,
they
you know, I'm getting ready
hightailed
to
it out
retire,
of
and there's a
town
few
to
things I
give
want to do
service.
before I
But
retire.
I think what concerns
You think
me
you were
more
on
than
the
this
list?
I think
is
I was on the
that
list.
Jessa, who was a part of this process, who was in this lawsuit, actually helped her parents evade service. I don't care if you are the plaintiff in the case and you don't want your parents to provide help to the other side, but there's rules of the court. And so if you're stepping in the middle of something and you know that this person is there for what's involved with your case and you willingly help your parents avoid it, I can't even understand that. Like, I have been served for many lawsuits. I haven't lost a single one. And I'll tell you what, it's worse to have process servers surveil you than it is to simply accept the service and do what you're supposed to do. In the deposition, all he could have done the whole time is said, I don't know. You know, he could have just played ignorant. But instead he avoided it and he enlisted his daughter, who was a part of the case, to avoid it. Why didn't he want to bring up what was he hiding that he didn't want to have anything? Why didn't he want to? He's the one that said that he was going to sue them. It was him that there was this idea that he's the one that brought it up on Megyn Kelly.
Any chance of you suing her or the city for this disclosure?
We're talking to some attorneys about that right now, and we'll see.
Nobody else did. He did. It's like when he was testifying for Josh and they said he wasn't credible. On top of that, isn't it weird that they have lock gates and drones? This is a family that has some high level of paranoia, and they don't want outsiders to come in and have such a tightly secured compound. Does it even surprise you why some of the kids are afraid to defy Jim Bob? But Jessa, come on, helping her parents avoid service in a case that she wanted to be taken seriously of. As I've been going through the court records, I can totally understand now why the case was dismissed. Even if it was just for immunity purposes, it's clear to me that the people at Springdale and at Washington County had zero interest in actually hurting the girls, and the girls could provide literally no proof of how it hurt them more than what Josh had done to them, and that it was actually private. It's really sad that Jim Bob convinced the girls that it was the release of the records that was the bigger problem than anything else. That's like gaslighting 101.
I think our daughters have, you know, they were shocked to hear this. It's something that crushed them at first, but
They did not want this out publicly.
no, they didn't want this out. And
The release of the records was wrong, but at the same time, it happened. They shouldn't have done it. They did it because they thought they were going to get in trouble. But isn't keeping the secret worse, and isn't putting your kids on TV worse than what actually happened? Knowing what happened to them? They're the one, Jim Bob's the one that put them on TV in the middle of all of that. In the middle of all of that, he put his family on TV rather than taking care of his house. And then they blame the government for doing the government's job. I feel bad for the girls because I feel like they're collateral damage in this. And Jim Bob wants everyone to believe that it was a fight between the good versus the evil. But in reality, it wasn't even like that. So, what are your thoughts about the drones and Jessa helping her parents avoid service? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.